Welcome to the first tee at St Andrew's Old Course, and welcome to the first episode in this series, Your Bunker Mentality. But why, you may ask, are we starting a series on the bunkers of St Andrew's from the first tee of the Old Course? Because if you've played the Old Course, you may think there are no bunkers on the first hole of the Old Course. But really, are there no bunkers? Or perhaps is it a case that you just haven't quite looked hard enough yet? You see, there once was a bunker on the Old Course, on the first hole, about 200 yards off the tee and a little bit left of centre. And a fine bunker and specimen it was as well. Hazlitt's Bunker was its name. Now, it was filled in way back in 1847, but many of the locals tell me if the conditions are just right, if there's not a breath of wind and the mist is blown in from the North Sea, if the air smells like a mature single Islay malt, then Hazlitt's Bunker will once again reappear in its original place down the fairway. So, if Hazlitt's Bunker had any advice to give us, or tell us about how to play the Old Course, what advice would it be? So if Hazlitt's Bunker could give us some psychological advice, what advice would it give us? Well, of course, it would give us some advice on first tee nerves. First tee nerves can happen to any golfer, and especially here standing in the shadow of the famous Royal and Ancient Clubhouse and having the ghosts of every champion that have played here in the past in our minds, then first tee nerves can become a little bit of an issue. We think the professionals of the game never have first tee nerves, that they exude a level of confidence and assuredness. But you know, nothing could be further from the truth, because everyone who's ever played this game has experienced first tee nerves. One of the best techniques that I've found over the years for first tee nerves comes from mindfulness and is called box breathing. Box breathing is a technique of breathing in for a count of 4, holding for a count of 4, breathing out to a count of 4, and then holding again for a count of 4, rinsing and repeating. Now, this method of breathing takes us out of worrying for the future and back into our present and mind and body, and can be very useful with first tee nerves. One of the other techniques that's useful for first tee nerves is picking a very, very small aiming point in the distance. The first fairway at St Andrews is over 120 yards wide, so it would be easy to just stand up and scalp away. But as we know from our heroes in the past, we've heard of Bernard Langer and we've heard of Ben Hogan asking their caddies for a very small and precise aiming point in the distance. And what that does is brings us back to focusing on something in the distance that we can do rather than worrying than where we are in the present moment. The two aiming points I like to pick on the first are the little chimney stack that you can see in the distance, or the little gorse bush, and that gives us something to aim at. The third technique for first tee nerves, and one that I guess most of you will have heard of, is the technique of just staying with your pre-shot routine. We've all seen times when we've been watching golf on the television when the professionals have taken an extra couple of practice swings and maybe hit a bad shot as a result. So make sure you develop a consistent pre-shot routine and make sure you stick to that pre-shot routine. One piece of advice I wouldn't take for first tee nerves was one I got many years ago when I was caddying for a golfer. Obviously, he was getting mistaken between the cure for first tee nerves and the cure for speaking in public. And he said he thought the best way to cure first tee nerves was to try and imagine your caddy naked. Now, I don't know if it's really a very good idea to imagine your caddy naked. After all, it could lead to a very awkward 4-hour relationship as we're walking around the golf course. And after all, one of the caddy's jobs is to wipe balls clean with a wet towel. So one piece of psychological advice for first tee nerves I would never take is never, ever, 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 ever imagine your caddy naked. So thank you, Hazlitt's Bunker, for that piece of advice. We're going to take a little walk further down the first fairway and then we'll catch up down there. There is one very special hazard on the first hole at St Andrews. It is of course the famous Swilcan Burn. Now the Swilcan Burn lies in front of the first green and has cost many golfers a penalty early on in the round. And no one wants a penalty as early on in the round as the first hole. Now burn is one of the many words in the Scots language that has no vowel to it. You see, what happened was a way back after the 1745 Jacobite Rebellion, the Covenanters banned the use of vowels in the Scots language. They believed that Highland clans were communicating with their French allies with the use of a strange language of vowels and soft consonants. So they banned the use of vowels in the language. After that time, if you were found using vowels, they would tie you to a tree and whip you repeatedly. And if you screamed out, ouch, ah or ooh, then you'd get whacked even more. The very epitome of a lose-lose situation. So if you hear the Scots language or dialect today and you wonder about the lack of vowels used in it, now you know the reason for it. I remember a few years back, I saw a conger eel swimming up the Swilcan Burn here. Can you imagine the indignity of having a 4,000-mile voyage from the Sargasso Sea just to get whacked in the head by a golfer who was sure that he hit his wedge 140 yards? Well, thank you for watching the first episode of Your Bunker Mentality. Like and subscribe to hear more. And until the next time, may you and the bunkers be like ships that pass in the night.